Bitcoin is right now trading along this major line of support and resistance. Of course, I'm talking about the green line, which I drew right here, which is all the way from the peak in October 2025 at 125, 126,000. We got rejected again in January and went through this bear flag pattern right here through the middle, and now found support again, of course, earlier this month. Now, I think we're gonna go down there, and we know that we're in a bear market usually for 12 months, and I can show this to you guys right here. And if I put the logarithmic, we can see it nicely that from the top of the bull market to the bottom of the bear market, it's always been pretty much 365 days. You can see this right here. And this would bring us to October 1st. Look at the bottom of the screen. October 1st of this year, of course, that we will find a bottom most likely. And that's what everyone is talking about, right? And that's what I also think. So I think we'll go down, and eventually, if we put the logarithmic back, we'll see that we found nice resistance, found support here, and we'll most likely, once we break down from this major level of support at 59 to $60,000, we found support here, we found support right here, we found support, of course, on the breakdown. We'll eventually find some support on this major green line. Now, if I zoom in for Bitcoin a bit, we can see that essentially we're trying to find some support here before we potentially move back to the upside. The question is, will we find support? Well, I can't really know. It's very difficult right now to predict what's going to happen. What I'm going to do is to be prepared, put some short positions at these levels. And these are, of course, the liquidation levels on the liquidation heat map, where most traders get liquidated on their positions. This is, of course, at $62,000 and then also at $63,400. And this is where people who are shorting right now, people who have been shorting the market here on this major level of support, people who are entering shorts and all the way along here have their liquidation prices. And that's what I'm going to do, enter my short positions here. And if we find a bounce from here to the upside, I'm going to be benefiting from the move to the downside, because I do think we're going to eventually break to the downside. And also, I want to show this to you guys. Look, Bitcoin, this is the last cycle and this is this cycle. And I have the Fibonacci extension lines here for both, from the bottom to the top. And we can see that, yes, we hit the golden pocket. We're just about to hit the golden pocket again, just like we did last time. But last cycle, we actually went even further to the 0.786 Fibonacci extension line. And if the same thing happens this cycle, this will bring us all the way to like $40,000. But for now, I'm looking at the golden pocket, which we are essentially right here in the market, right? We are right here just before the breakdown into the golden pocket. And the same thing can be seen for the current cycle. And I think we're going to break down into the golden pocket very soon, which will bring us to the mid to low $50,000 regions. If we then break down further, it will bring us, of course, into the low 40s. Now, Bitcoin is now on track to be below $6,000 and on track for a rare back-to-back quarterly lows. This is quite rare for Bitcoin. And I want to be looking also at this. So this is telling me that essentially the last few bear markets, Bitcoin crashed 76% in 2014, 69% in 2019, 66% in 2022, and right now we're down about 50%. So also another factor to consider, that there might still be another big leg to the downside before we eventually find that bottom around about September, October, November. So like Q3, Q4 2026. And also this chart is telling us, it's basically a very famous chart. You might have come across it online, and it's basically just a cheat sheet, essentially telling us the stages of the market. Essentially, in the bottom we have the disbelief, and then we're going to hope. People are being more optimistic, then people are thrilled, then people are euphoric that Bitcoin is going to the moon. And that's, of course, when you want to be selling. When everyone's talking about you want to be selling, and on the way down, people are, it's just, let's read it. It's people are getting anxiety, they're getting denial, they're panicking, they're capitulating. And we can see right now we're following this pattern very nicely, and we're essentially entering that last stage in the bear market. We'll have that next big breakdown coming soon, below, of course, that $60,000 region. We'll have that big breakdown. People start again talking about how Bitcoin is a scam, how it's going to go to zero. And that's when you want to start buying Bitcoin to be benefiting, of course, going into that next bull market. And also, Bitcoin has never put in a bear market bottom above the realized price. And the realized price is, of course, the average price for which Bitcoin was bought for, essentially. And the realized price right now is still above Bitcoin is still above the realized price. And we can see that every single time in the last bear market bottom, Bitcoin went below the realized price. The realized price here, of course, being the green line. And we can see Bitcoin's price right now is still above the realized price. So also another factor to consider, that I think we're gonna go a bit lower. And if we will most likely break this major level of support at $59,000 to $60,000, it's just a question of when we will do it. And I think we can find a bounce from here to the upside. Look at these candles. They all wicked below $59,000, but none of them actually closed below $59,000. Until one of them closes below 59, I think we can have a bounce here to the upside. And like I said, I'm going to enter short positions at 62, at 63.5. And looking at the liquidation heat map, I can see these are the two biggest levels of liquidations. Also on the bottom, I can see a big level of liquidity at $58,000, which will be hit. But right now, there's more liquidation, more liquidity to be grabbed on the upside, which makes me believe we're gonna go another way to the upside before we go down. Now, also, this chart is basically telling me the Bitcoin exchange balances, so how much Bitcoin is on exchanges. And we can see it's fairly flat. It kind of rose a bit here. And usually when it rises, it's a negative sign. People usually deposit Bitcoin on exchanges when they want to sell. But right now there's not a clear direction. It went up slightly, which might suggest we might have some selling coming. And looking at the USDT exchange balances, so if this rises, then it's usually a good thing. If people deposit USDT on the exchanges, this is usually a sign that they might be buying some Bitcoin soon. But this is also very undecisive. Look at this. It was flat, then it increased, but then it decreased. So I don't see a clear trend here either. It's basically, will there be any news events coming? And the main factor for me is right now the liquidation heat map, really, because I can see market makers usually try to grab the liquidity. The market usually goes to these levels. It's not a directional chart. It's just telling me these are targets, essentially. It's not telling me we are going up or down. These are just targets. What I know is that we at crucial support, which makes me believe we might see a bounce. But if we break down, we can go down very quickly, of course. And also here, looking at this chart, this is Bitcoin, and then we have the funding rates. We are seeing that usually when funding rates are negative, so this is when most people are shorting the markets, we go in the other direction. Like when everyone was negative, we had that big rally up to like 67. So it's just at $82,000. This is the 12-hourly chart. And we can see all the way along going to the downside, people were long in the market. People were still believing that we're going to go higher. And all the way along the bottom, all the way moving to the downside, funding rates are positive. And right now, funding rates are still mostly positive. You can see this obviously with these green bars here, which makes me believe we're going to have another big move to the downside. If most people are bullish, most likely we'll actually go in the other direction. So I am not, just to be clear, I am not bullish long-term on Bitcoin. I think we can have a bounce here, like I said, to these liquidity levels. But overall, I am bearish until October at least. And that I want to make very clear, right? Not that anyone says, but you said it goes up. I think we can pump slightly, but overall, I am bearish, and I'm only opening short positions, not any long positions right now. Until October, I'm not going to open long positions. And here, strategies, my MicroStrategy, the valuation of the company is actually now below the value of its Bitcoin holdings. So we can see right here, the stock price of MicroStrategy is $82, and this is 85% below its November all-time high. And actually, meaning $50.4 billion is the value, the market cap of MicroStrategy. Its Bitcoin holdings are a bit higher, $51.1 billion. And this, of course, not a good sign. People are valuing the company less than its holdings, its Bitcoin holdings. So this is also a bearish sign. And also look at this, Coinbase and OKX are trying to lure in Binance's EU users after it failed to secure a MiCA license, which is of course a markets in crypto assets license, which just has a few regulations for these crypto exchanges in Europe. And this is will start from July 1st. If an exchange cannot comply with MiCA, then they will have to shut down operations. So Coinbase and OKX are offering sign-up bonuses to the users. And of course, this is also a bearish sign. I mean, for Europe overall, not very crypto friendly, and I think it just plays along very nicely with the idea that we are probably gonna go down another leg to the downside. And finally, we're gonna look at June 30th, which is of course tomorrow, and that's the day when MicroStrategy has to pay dividends on STRC, their preferred stock, and MicroStrategy is right now immensely in debt. So one of the only ways that they can really pay out these dividends, which are currently at 15% approximately, the current price of strategy, of STRC, of the preferred stock, they might have to sell some Bitcoin, which is another bearish sign that we might go a bit lower from here. So I'm really looking out here to see what is that next move, and I expect we can have a pump, like I said, but overall I am very bearish for Bitcoin at the moment, and I want to make that clear. And with that being said, see you guys tomorrow, and bye.